Mark Twain Selected Works Concerning the Recent Resignation, Part 2. During the whole time that I was connected with the government, it seemed as if I could not do anything in an official capacity without getting myself into trouble. And yet I did nothing, attempted nothing but what I conceived to be for the good of my country. The sting of my wrongs may have driven me to unjust and harmful conclusions, but it surely seemed to me that the Secretary of State, the Secretary of War, the Secretary of the Treasury, and others of my confreres had conspired from the very beginning to drive me from the administration. I never attended but one cabinet meeting while I was connected with the government. That was sufficient for me. The servant at the White House door did not seem disposed to make way for me until I asked if the other members of the cabinet had arrived. He said they had, and I entered. They were all there, but nobody offered me a seat. They stared at me as if I had been an intruder. The president said, "Well, sir, who are you?" I handed him my card, and he read, "The Honorable Mark Twain, Clerk of the Senate Committee on Conchology." Then he looked at me from head to foot as if he had never heard of me before. The Secretary of the Treasury said, "This is the meddlesome ass that came to recommend me to put poetry and conundrums in my report, as if it were an almanac." The Secretary of War said, "It is the same visionary that came to me yesterday with a scheme to educate a portion of the Indians to death and massacre the balance." The Secretary of the Navy said, "I recognize this youth as the person who has been interfering with my business time and again during the week. He is distressed about Admiral Farragut's using the whole fleet for a pleasure excursion, as he terms it. His proposition about some insane pleasure excursion on a raft is too absurd to repeat." I said, "Gentlemen, I perceive here a disposition to throw discredit upon every act of my official career. I perceive also a disposition to debar me from all voice in the councils of the nation. No notice whatever was sent to me today. It was only by the merest chance that I learned that there was going to be a cabinet meeting. But let these things pass. All I wish to know is this a cabinet meeting or is it not?" The president said it was. Then I said, "Let us proceed to business at once, and not fritter away valuable time in unbecoming fault-findings with each other's official conduct." The Secretary of State now spoke up in his benignant way and said, "Young man, you are laboring under a mistake. The clerks of the congressional committees are not members of the cabinet. Neither are the doorkeepers of the Capitol, strange as it may seem. Therefore, much as we could desire your more than human wisdom in our deliberations, we cannot lawfully avail ourselves of it. The councils of the nation must proceed without you. If disaster follows, as follow full well it may, be it balm to your sorrow and spirit, that by deed and voice you did what in you lay to avert it. You have my blessing. Farewell." These gentle words soothed my troubled breast, and I went away. But the servants of a nation can know no peace. I had hardly reached my den in the Capitol and disposed my feet on the table like a representative, when one of the senators on the Conchological Committee came in a passion and said, "Where have you been all day?" I observed that if that was anybody's affair but my own, I had been to a cabinet meeting. To a cabinet meeting? I would like to know what business you had at a cabinet meeting. I said I went there to consult, allowing for the sake of argument that he was in any wise concerned in the matter. He grew insolent then, and ended by saying he had wanted me for 3 days past to copy a report on bombshells, eggshells, clamshells, and I don't know what all, connected with conchology, and nobody had been able to find me. This was too much. This was the feather that broke the clerical camel's back. I said, "Sir, do you suppose that I am going to work for $6 a day? If that is the idea, let me recommend the Senate Committee on Conchology to hire somebody else. I am the slave of no faction. Take back your degrading commission. Give me liberty or give me death." From that hour, I was no longer connected with the government. Snubbed by the department, snubbed by the cabinet, snubbed at last by the chairman of a committee I was endeavoring to adorn, I yielded to persecution, cast far from me the perils and seductions of my great office, and forsook my bleeding country in the hour of her peril. But I had done the state some service, and I sent in my bill. The United States of America, in account with the Honorable Clerk of the Senate Committee on Conchology, to consultation with Secretary of War, $50. To consultation with Secretary of Navy, $50. To consultation with Secretary of the Treasury, $50. Cabinet consultation, no charge. To mileage to and from Jerusalem via Egypt, Algiers, Gibraltar, and Cadiz, 14,000 miles at 20 cents a mile, $2,800. The salary as clerk of Senate Committee on Conchology, 6 days at $6 per day, $36. Total, $2,986. Territorial delegates charge mileage both ways, although they never go back when they get here once. Why my mileage is denied me is more than I can understand. Not an item of this bill has been paid, except that trifle of $36 for clerkship salary. The Secretary of the Treasury, pursuing me to the last, drew his pen through all the other items and simply marked in the margin, "Not allowed." So the dread alternative is embraced at last. Repudiation has begun. The nation is lost. True, the President promised that he would mention my claim in his message, and recommend that it be paid out of the first moneys received on account of the Alabama claims. But will he recollect to do it? And may not I be forgotten when the Alabama claims are paid? Younger claimants than I am may be forgotten when the Alabama claims are paid. I am done with official life for the present. Let those clerks who are willing to be imposed on remain. I know numbers of them in the departments who are never informed when there is to be a cabinet meeting, whose advice is never asked about war or finance or commerce by the heads of the nation, any more than if they were not connected with the government, and who actually stay in their offices day after day and work. They know their importance to the nation, and they unconsciously show it in their bearing and the way they order their sustenance at the restaurant. But they work. I know one who has to paste all sorts of little scraps from the newspapers into a scrapbook, sometimes as many as 8 or 10 scraps a day. He doesn't do it well, but he does it as well as he can. It is very fatiguing. It is exhausting to the intellect. Yet he only gets $1,800 a year. With a brain like his, that young man could amass thousands and thousands of dollars in some other pursuit if he chose to do it. But no, his heart is with his country, and he will serve her as long as she has got a scrapbook left. And I know clerks that don't know how to write very well, but such knowledge as they possess they nobly lay at the feet of their country and toil on and suffer for $2,500 a year. What they write has to be written over again by other clerks sometimes. But when a man has done his best for his country, should his country complain? Then there are clerks that have no clerkships, and are waiting and waiting and waiting for a vacancy, waiting patiently for a chance to help their country out. And while they are waiting, they only get barely $2,000 a year for it. It is sad. It is very, very sad. When a member of Congress has a friend who is gifted, but has no employment wherein his great powers may be brought to bear, he confers him upon his country, and gives him a clerkship in a department. And there that man has to slave his life out fighting documents for the benefit of a nation that never thinks of him, never sympathizes with him, and all for $2,000 or $3,000 a year. When I shall have completed my list of all the clerks in the several departments, with my statement of what they have to do and what they get for it, you will see that there are not half enough clerks, and that what there are do not get half enough pay. Mark Twain, December 27, 1867.